Peace, peace, everyone. Hopefully, you
Peace.
all can see us and hear us. Let us know the sound is okay. Peace, Aki El Parag. Peace to you. Peace to everybody coming into the space. Give thanks to the Most High Yah. Give thanks to Chief Yah, for, I don't know, for just paving the way and making all of this possible for us to come through and learn and build and learn not just through always receiving, but also giving us opportunities to give and share what we've been learning, um, what we've been able to pass through, the filters of the minds that Yah has given us, and getting, various results based on, the mindset that we've come through and the experiences that we've had, and also being given the opportunity to come under a singular stream of cognition. So we all come from our different areas, and we all come from different um, our different backgrounds, and we have an opportunity to build with one another inside of a communal space. To I'd say sharpen each other, and perfect this thought that we're looking to hold and carry throughout the duration of our lives and our walks. So how you doing, Alvaro? How's everyone doing in the chat? I see everyone coming through.
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. It's been a long, busy week, but um, it's Sabbath now, so we're preparing for our fellowship and what our good topic today. So
Okay, I see someone in the backstage. Um, I'm not sure if you joined a little early, if you saw the link and just clicked it, um, or if that was by mistake. I'm not sure. So let's see. Um, are you there, Daisy? If you're there, you're on mute. Okay, I see. I'll remove you then. Yeah, Daisy was saying that I'll remove you from the studio too. She was saying that she was only on that side because she can't comment on YouTube for some reason. She didn't want to be here and not greet us. So
okay.
peace and welcome, Daisy, and welcoming everyone to the chat as well. Um, okay, getting smoke signals. But yeah, welcome Aki El Karad, Sister Yamino, Sister Yafe, Aki Isaiah, Safta Naya, Safta Hava. Yeah, peace and welcome. But yeah, hopefully your strong went well and you were able to get a lot of things accomplished, and you're moving forward strongly, and vigorously, and with conviction. Peace, Chief. Yeah, peace, Chief. And
Chief.
yeah, man. Okay, so Sister Amina says she's doing well. Thanks for asking, and it's been a productive day. I'm doing well as I'm doing good as well. Give thanks for asking. I've been on the move for
Mm-hmm.
for the most of the strong. Especially between yesterday and today, I had to come to a different island to Freeport to I guess run some errands. So I was able to get a good amount done. How about you, Apple Root? How's your strong been?
This strong has been really busy, really busy. A lot of things have happened, but we got through it. So more to come next strong. But yeah, definitely busy. Um, yeah, yeah. I'll just leave it at that. It's just definitely been a very busy strong of with a lot's been going on, and and some of it actually um, it actually some of the things I was dealing with clients or so actually covers with our topics. So, but yeah, definitely was a busy moment. It's been, you know, um, busy. Yeah, strong has been busy. I'll just use it at that. It's just been busy. That's all. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Overwhelming. I mean, overwhelming too. But yeah, Sabbath now. So it's yeah, we're preparing for this moment. So I was looking forward to today for our build.
Okay. Yeah, I'm always looking forward to the restfulness and the recharge because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's draining. You know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you engage in that drain you more than others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the same goes for people that you interact with. They drain you more than others. You know, some people help you to recharge. You know, and others are just there to take. And
Right.
it is very important to be able to like establish and discern the difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what we're talking about this evening has to do with discernment. You know, discernment on both men and women as we deal with the concept of family, right? And it's a lot to it. You know, a lot more than we can cover in this segment.
Right.
But if you listen to any of Chief's segments, he always talks. He's always talking about family, right? Every time he speaks, it's about the family because the family is so vital and so fundamental to how we move,
Mm-hmm.
especially in our culture. So
Right.
we're coming off of our new fellowship last strong with Safta Harbor and Sister Maria, Ima Yukiri Eden, built on her theme Mercy, Mercy Me, you know, dealing with the concept of mercy on first date. Chief Yuya brought a throwback with the Kama Sutra, which was really like I don't think I listened to it the first time. You know, that was one that I think I missed because there's so many. You're gonna miss some. I think that was one that I missed, and I'm so glad that he did bring it back because there's so many basic things that men and women um, need to have under their belt,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding those simple basic things, they answer a lot of the questions that we think we should be bringing to others, or we think are like emergencies. But if you had these simple, basic things that we don't get taught, because why would anyone trying to enslave you teach you basic things that would help you to be free, right?
Right.
Uh, and you think of them as not that they aren't extraordinary, but they're extraordinary by our standards because it's very rare that you see people have certain traits, you know, like being able to play an instrument or being able to sing well or being good riddles, you know, or being really handy, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Some of those things that were listed in the Kama Sutra are really fascinating to me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, these things are attractive traits in women, right? I always like women who are musically inclined, especially if they have a good voice or they can play an instrument. Like that would always endear me to women, to people in
Mm-hmm.
general, because I like people who are good like manual dexterity, like they can
Right.
play strings or they can play drum. They can do stuff with their hands, you know.
Right.
Yeah, man.
But the funny thing you said about music, the thing about music, it you know, it's about discipline. It's about bringing balance. It's so many things that ties into those instruments, and then of course our Jegna, Chief Jegna, he plays all of them. So, I'm. But the thing is, when like you said, when a family, when you have, there's so many different aspects that go along with that, but also that helps train the mind, and it's
Mhm.
and earlier during the day, when Chief was talking about, I remember some time ago when we were doing study sessions, it was probably last year, about the way music today now is computerized. It's not the same thing. When someone can do a musical instrument on a computer versus playing it live or it's totally different. But boy, like you just said, it takes a lot of discipline. takes a lot of discipline to do that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the chief telling all your business. Yeah, I didn't know you were one of the lost members of Shalimar. You know, that's something new. I learned something new about you today.
Wait, say that again about me?
Yeah, so Chief says I may play all the instruments, but Abba Harut is one of the lost members of Shalimar. Yeah, hiding in plain sight.
You know what?
Yeah,
You know what? Now watch, that song is gonna start playing in my head now when Chief said that. It's so funny when he said that. So
peaceful.
that's a good one.
Yeah, uh, but like you were saying, it takes a lot of discipline, and like I know from being younger, I liked. I think the first instrument I ever played was like a piano, like a little keyboard. And let's make it a night to remember. I was playing on a little keyboard. One of my cousins had a keyboard, and it was one of those that teaches you like little songs. Like they have little songs loaded into them. I would just play on that, and my brother would see me like I would just be all of my focus on like following what it was telling me to do. And I was young. I was like maybe 11, 12. And my brother saw it. And when they were having a garage sale like 3 years later, like he bought the keyboard for me. Right. And then I started learning songs on that. And then my parents saw me like putting energy into that. So they got me a better keyboard and a better piano. And it takes a lot of discipline to do it. But what I liked was that we're talking about covering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those who were covering me at that time, I was still young. I think I was like maybe 15 or 14 when my parents got it. They saw that I was putting energy and focus and attention into this, and they could hear me all day, like playing this thing, right? And they decided to get me one, right? And that just speaking to one of the aspects of what a covering does. They ensure that you manifest the highest level of what you're invested in, or what you say you're invested in. So they'll always encourage you, like you say you're doing all right. Well, what you gonna do with it? You can't just say you're doing it whimsically. Like, what are you gonna do with it? How seriously do you take this thing, or how far are you gonna go with it?
Right. And as you were sharing this, I just had, as Chief said the joke, I'm short. I mean, and it's funny. It's like a boomerang. It came back. I forgot. I did a rendition of Shalimar at the retreat, and we were around this camp.
Oh.
And it blew my. I forgot totally about it, and then the thought just came to me why Chief put that in there. I'm like, and I forgot I did that because I did a couple, and I kind of messed the song up. But that's why I'm like, oh my gosh. So thank you, Chief. That was fun. That was fun. I totally forgot about that. So I forgot about that when as Chief did it, and it's like as you were talking and sharing with me, and it came back to me like that boomerang. It's like and it comes back. So I missed it. It went over my head and it came back and it reminded me. So
wow,
that was a moment. You know what? That was definitely a night to remember, Chief. So that was definitely a night. I'll never forget that night. That was a beautiful night. And yes, I had fun. I had lots of fun. I would do it again because it's my see, that's the thing. I was with my family when I did that. And Chief watched me, and it's like, wow. And it's funny. It's funny thing we talk about our Chief Jack. He don't forget nothing. He don't forget nothing.
Oh yeah,
it's like all the stuff we do. So that was a moment.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Chief remembers.
Yeah.
Chief is like Pepperidge Farm. Yeah. But so what? Was it spontaneous? Did you just pop up and start singing?
I remember Yakira Eden. They were asking me about think of a song, and I was sitting here trying to think of a song, and that was one, and it was another one, and that was the song that came out. I even forgot who was Shalimar. It's so funny. Chief knew. I totally forgot it was, and it just came to mind. And then now it's playing in my head now, so I'm like, oh wow, I remember now playing that. I'm saying I was karaoke without any instruments. Trust me, I did not have any instruments. So, but yes, that was a moment I totally forgot about it until Chi brought it up. I totally forgot, and I actually was reliving in my head all over again. And so, interesting, yeah. So that was what it was. I was
That's funny.
ad-libbing, but I was having fun.
That's
That was
funny.
fun.
Yeah, man. But that level of vulnerability is very important as well. Because you were like you said, you were surrounded by your community. You was with your family. Chief was there. You felt comfortable enough to just let loose, right? And we were talking earlier about they got a lot of videos coming up. Okay, Sister Yafe. Akiel Karas says he had toy guitars. But that level of exposure and nakedness is something that we want to consider when we're dealing with like Bereshit, right? Like one of the first instances where you see the word naked, which was Aram, which is funny because it's spelled two different ways. I didn't get to go into it too deeply, but like for the Hebrew buffs in the chat, I'm not the best at Hebrew, and I can recognize the symbols, but when it comes to the meanings, like people come with these, like Chief would break it down and be like, all that, and those that little stroke, all of that, But you have Ayin, Resh, Vav, and Mim for the first time when it said, I think it's the end of chapter 2, when it says the man and the woman were both naked, but they knew it not. Right, so they were naked, but they were cool because everybody was under the same program. You know what I mean? They were all covered by the Elohim. They were all doing what they were instructed to do, and everything was cool. And then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked, and now you have the second instance of Aron where they ate of the fruit, and they saw that they were naked. Right, so that's the other one, and that one it's spelled Ayin Yod Resh Mem. So the first one was Ayin Resh Vav Mem, and then the second one was Ayin Yod Resh Mem. And it's significant. It wasn't what I was talking about, but it was like a note that I made on the side. Okay. While I'm looking at my notes. I thought it was interesting. Maybe one of you in the chat has some insight into that.
Yafe is good at Yafe and Safta Naya are good with that. So
yeah, they always in their Hebrew. But as I was thinking about nakedness in general, something being uncovered, right? We're talking about covering and that natural state of being naked. But they didn't. It wasn't something that bothered them because they were covered. It wasn't a physical thing that they were worried about. They weren't in the physical. But then you get to the second part when it's like, oh snap, I'm naked. It's like, who told you were naked? You know what I mean? And that aspect of who told you were naked, it made me think of covering in the sense of a man covering a woman, or even in the aspects that a woman covers her man. Like, who tells you what it means to be covered and uncovered? Who determines that for you? Or who can tell you that, like, who comes from outside of your community? If your community is moving in the way that it's supposed to be moving, and you're covered and protected, sometimes you may not even realize the covering and protection that you may have. Like, I didn't realize how I was grateful, but I didn't realize how blessed I was to have elders like my elder brother or my parents who would just be like, oh, he's actually found a vehicle to express himself. Let's assist that process. And some people don't have it. Some people have family members who actively try to steer them away from coming into that level of self-awareness or self-exploration. you know. But when it comes to covering, like a man covering a woman covering a man, it's different for both. I want to put it to the chat. You know, what does it mean um, for a man to cover a woman, or what does it mean for a woman to cover a man? You know, what are some of the ways that they're I don't want to say the same or different, but what are some of the ways that they speak to um, each of their roles? You know, what are some of the ways that a man covers a woman or his family? You know, just a man covering in general. What are some of the ways that that speaks to his role? And what are some of the ways that a woman covers in general that speaks to her role? You know, and this is under the covering of a man. This isn't like off in the distance. I know single mothers who cover their children well. It's not that. It's in the context of a union. You know, what are some of the ways that a woman covers? What are some of the ways that a man covers?
Right. And as you're sharing, also, you know, of course, that covering extends beyond, like for us, you know, with the Most High, over that's why this is a complete union. As we hear everyone, Saftanaya, she puts it in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. Now she know not in the chat. So, but anyhow, going back to what you're saying about, like we were saying, are you covered? You know, it wasn't for Chief breaking it down, and you know, when he first, like, I had to go back to looking at the initiative covering when he wrote out something for us in the Eternal and Anu, and I didn't really, I appreciate him again, understanding what covering really is all about, the dynamics and why it's so important to be covered, and for you and I to learn and understand, not only, more importantly for us as men, because you hear, you know, our Chief Yuya always shares about, you hear about the men covering the womb, but there's also an aspect, and like you said, even with when we were there present for you and Akoti Yamina's betrothal, and I can remember that time when she was going around 7 times, and that again spoke volumes, because one, we were talking about culture, that's within our culture as Hebrew, but at the same time, it's letting us know what it means to understand from, not only from the biblical point of view of what and why about being covered, but why is it so essential and important? It's like it's the fabric that holds. You know what? As you're sharing, I think of the Most High and us conjoining, and that fabric. Going back to, I think about when Chief broke down about, even about the fabric, but I'm not going to get into that right now because I don't want to mess it up. But the very part is the conjoining, the union, and how so vital it is to be covered, but more importantly, the Most High, and then we as man and woman to take, again, it's not to be taken lightly. It's so vital and so important, and the everyday life journey that you take in doing so, because it's not just in that moment. You were sharing earlier about with the assignments that goes with the role playing, and that each of those assignments have to be covered. It has to be dealt with. It's a part of the fabric of a family. We have roles that we have to play. Okay, and that also helps cement that part of the covering. I'm still thinking about the umbrella that when Chief brought that out a long time ago, and we were talking about that earlier.
Right. Actually, I think I can pull it up.
Mm.
This one, right?
Yes. 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 That's the one. The
Right.
EME.
Yeah.
Emmy.
So
I'm
you
sorry.
have
Emmy.
right. You have the most high at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the
The
husband,
husband.
and then you have the wife, and you have the children. Which is super important to note that it's similar to how we speak about being a student. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, when you're a student, it's like student and teacher are two sides of the same coin. Whether you're giving or you're receiving, you're still learning something on either side. And in order to cover, you have to be capable of being covered, right? So you can't be expecting or demanding anything of those you're covering if you're disobedient to your covering. And this is where it gets kind of tricky for some men, where
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to submit to anything, but they want everyone to submit to them.
Right.
And it's lopsided, and it's even like what Chief had said in his answer. It's authenticity, and you can't expect for anyone to do what you're not willing to do. So Chief's answer is, when it comes to a man covering a woman um, in that sacred union, or all of those under his covering, really, and the woman, she having her rules of being a covering and what she's charged with protecting, like what you were mentioning earlier with our betrothal. When Yamina encircled me 7
Mm-hmm.
times, and that representing her protecting my rib on my side, on my soft parts, on my vital organs. Her being the man's covering on the earth, and me being her covering from top down.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's no like diminishing in that.
Right.
And that's one of the common like distractions that people sort of throw out there as like a red herring. If I just throw this into the mix, then maybe they'll stop talking constructively about nation building and start just trying to defend their position, which it halts any type of constructive conversation about it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So Chief says authenticity. He walks what he talks. His word is his bond. He does not demand of those under him what he does not or will not do himself. He
Right.
must be everything he wants to see reflected, right? And that's Chief always will come with it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But that's super important to this discussion, because you can't just say that okay, we went through the betrothal, we had the ceremony, we're wedded, that's it, I'm done, all my work is
Right.
done.
No.
Everything you did up to that point is your preparation, and
Right.
every step that you skip, it robs you of the ability to effectively do what you're supposed to do, because now you got to build the bike as you're riding it. You're given the opportunity to set yourself up before you even approach anyone for covering, or before anyone approaches you for covering, or matehood. You're given that opportunity, and then you're given another opportunity when you're going through the process of courtship, and another one when you're going through betrothal. you know. But if you keep skipping steps because you think there's some prize at the end of the process, like, and you don't endure a courtship. That's one of the things that it's one of the things that struck me as we were going through our courtship. You don't endure a courtship, because it's an opportunity to learn one another. So you don't just suffer through it and wait until you get to the good part.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't. It's like, it's not like when you sit down and you endure a movie because you really just want to see the fight scenes. You don't care about the dialogue. You don't care about what Jet Li or Jackie Chan has to say. You just want to see them punch something. Get to that. It's not like that. Every single part of it is important. And if you miss something, then it's going to come back later.
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, you wanted to add anything before we?
Yeah,
Go
I
through
was
the rest
just,
of this?
and I remember when I was watching one of Chief's podcasts on patriarchy, And wow, that was just to go back and to listen to his podcast. But again, before I do so, as you were sharing about you and Yamina, because it's a tier. Look at the preparation you had to go through. Our Chief Yuya prepared you for that, and then not to mention, he's our protector. There was a part of you honoring his word, honoring his example, honoring his walk, because he walks. That's one thing about our Chief Jugman. He walks the walk. He does not skip. No, out there's no skipping with our Chief Jugman. No, he actually walk, and so that's something. So when you are under that umbrella, we call Anu. When we're under that, that is something that, as he is our Chief Jugman, but also going back to that protection for us, because we have our duties to do as men, and keep the steps going, and then maintain it. But also, we have counsel going back to that covering. We are covered by him as well as the Most High, because what is it? This is part of the training that we do. This part of the training that we undergo as men. And so when I was going back to when I was watching his segment on the patriarchy, and when Chief was breaking down, especially when he's breaking down the Torah, the five books, and when he was breaking it down, he was sharing that those parts of the books, those were written for the Hebrew men only. Now, why? Because that was preparing us Hebrew men to educate his household. He is teaching you to again, going back to supreme mathematics, knowledge, and he did that in one of the podcasts as well. So for knowledge as well as wisdom, but you can't have that if you're not willing to ingest or basically receive the knowledge and then apply it. And so this is work. So that way, by being covered, there should be no reason. And if we follow, like I said, following the laws, following the directions that we're given, counsel, there will be no reason for us to slip. There will be no reason to fall in error. Why? Because you're following divine law, but you're following something that was made for us men. If we live a righteous life, if we strive, and again, it's about striving. If we don't put this stuff into practice, yes, it can fall apart. You and I were talking about earlier, where I was sharing with you a situation that I got a phone call with someone I was preparing for Anu, and they're no longer here. The young man lost his life because he didn't want to take counsel. He did not, and I was preparing him. It was kind of heartbreaking to hear this passage strong. That's one of the things I got. But if he had listened but he chose not to, and this goes back to people in the world. If we chose not to, we would be suffering many different consequences for our actions, for not following what? The rules? To protect your family? How could Akoti Yamina, when she encircles you those 7 times, in order to protect your organs, but how can that happen if you can't cover her dome, and you can't instill your in her the divine light that goes into her? Then she wouldn't want to cover you. So that's why it goes twofold.
Yeah, and then it, like you said, it's twofold. It's not like one does something and the other one doesn't, or whenever something happens, you just, oh, there she is. Whenever something happens, you just shift the blame. It's something that you both are building towards together, and as you're building towards it, oh, she popped in to do something. I just pulled out into the light. Uh, so it's not like this is one or the other. Like you're both responsible, and you could see it in the, I guess you call it the debacle with the fruit. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the tree the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they flipped on each other real quick.
Right.
Yeah, you know, like it was like, well, I did what I wasn't supposed to do, and I listened to her. But she was like, well, I did what I wasn't supposed to do, and I listened to someone other than him.
Right.
You know, so all right, so it's no one's fault, right? So then it's notice that the serpent didn't have nothing to say. You know, it was
No.
just them two. You know, the serpent was just I regret nothing.
Right. Right. He did his
So
job. He did his job.
right.
To bring what?
Yeah,
Confusion.
right. He brought confusion, and she didn't bring obedience, right? Like Sister Yaffe, reflection and obedience. So I'm an example to junior women, right? And not just women under you, but younger women. Why do you want to go outside now? Why are you bothering me now?
Right.
This is a dog trying to
Oh.
go outside. Like step away from what you're doing, so that you can let me out. You know, because I just decided I wanted to go somewhere. And even though I ignore you all day, you know, even though you just gave me food and water, and I decided I want to ignore you. Now I
Right.
decided I want to go outside. You know, and I start acting like we cool again. You know, I thought it was interesting. We started talking about the beast, and then this dog just decides
Right. And it beast literally
try to
spoke to you.
pull me away from what I'm doing.
Right. We were just you talk about voices, remember? We were just
Right.
see it tied right in. Oh,
Right.
you're gonna distract you. Oh, you're gonna try to distract me, and I'm live. You don't understand that.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Sister Yafa is like it's not just for junior women um, who are directly under you. You know, any woman can see you and see you as a reflection, and she could do what she wants with that information. You know, you get information that's right and exact. It's on you now how you respond to it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, are you going to understand that this is something that's a reflection of truth, which is super rare. You know, so when you find truth, it's like, okay, cool. You know, this is something that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't even think of my mind ran on the Book of Eli today, and how something as simple as shampoo was like so rare. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. You know, and he dude who was running the city, like he wasted all that good water washing his wife's hair. You know, like even when there's nothing on the planet, you still want to indulge in luxuries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, Chief Yuya says answer two: a man must have his house in order. He must have clearly defined education to provide for those under him, so they are never walking away, scratching their heads, or left to their own devices. Right. This one we're talking about roles, right? Because everyone everyone in the house has a job to do.
Right.
You know, like Chief had touched on in the not the most recent podcast. I think it's episode 94.
I think so.
If I'm
That
not
was
mistaken. 90,
that was
yeah, 94.
yeah.
Mother and Father Wisdom Part 2.
Right.
And you're talking about family, um, the root of family being servants of the household, servants of the home, right? And everyone being a servant means you have a job. You know, you can't just come through and say, well, I'll do this because I think this is going to happen. No, this is what you're going to do.
Right.
You know, something clearly defined where there's no room for misinterpretation or a serpent coming in and just twisting the words. I would say, no, just listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he says goes. You know what I mean? So even if something else comes and says something different, it's like, did you say this? You know, it's one thing that you didn't absorb it, and we'll get into that part too. It's one thing that you didn't absorb the instructions thoroughly enough for for that to just bounce right off of you. Like, no, that's not what he said. You know, it's not like that. It's
Right.
where anyone can just come in because you're not curating the light well enough. You're not going through revision. You're not meditating on the things that you're given. And Chief touches that on a segment entitled "The What Ifs." We'll
Yeah.
touch on that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Saftanaya says, being receptive to his agenda, keeping his home clear, keeping his home a clear, clean, peaceful place, feeding him in healthy ways to keep him strong and energetic. Yeah, that's actually one way to protect his vital organs as well. Is she giving you life or is she poisoning you?
Right.
You roll over and there's big chicken and macaronis, and first thing in the dawn, you might have an issue there, bro. It's sizzling because it just came out the microwave. You may not have a keeper. But keeping the space clear is another thing.
Right.
But because that's part of home management and home economics, which I didn't realize it was such a sacred word.
Mm-hmm.
Until Chief had broken it down. I always thought it was like, oh, that's like sewing and cooking. Okay. But it's the management of the home, it's the life of the home. And you're tasked with making sure that this thing is not only sustained, but there's always a way for it to move in a self-sustainable way. And meanwhile you're making sure that you're sustaining it in innovative ways. Even with that chart that we were just looking at, children being managers as well. Children being trained to manage.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not be washing the dishes yourself, but you're making sure that, let's say the rule is, Baba said, if you use something, you wash it. Baba says, if you turn on the light, you turn it back off when you're finished with it. Baba says, if you drop something, you got to clean it up. Baba says, if you sweep the floor, you pick up the dirt and throw it away. You don't just leave a little pile of dirt and the broom and dust pile and pat yourself on the back. Keeping those laws, even amongst the children, they help you out as well.
Exactly. And as you're sharing, I really would hit home is in the Anu way under leadership. It's towards the back, yeah, under vital edicts, and it's interesting what Chief wrote, and this is still been resonating with me once I've been reading it. One of the things I'm going to read the last under leadership. I'll read that last chapter. I mean, the last paragraph. Anu builds the excellence of male leadership. Above all, it is never appropriate for a woman to seek to usurp the leadership authority of a man's hold. A woman should not seek to teach a man anything or offer opinions and facts that are not requested. Her role is to assist the man in meeting his own objectives and mission. Her thoughts and desires should be aimed towards the intentions of her mate. A female who proceeds to teach a man is truly irksome to his spirit. Now, this is the part that really got me, that I really paid very close attention to. A man with nothing righteous to teach a woman is danger to the society as a whole, because he corrupts the perspective of the female and supports her imaginings of self-deification. That hit me because when I read that, I'm like, damn. And I literally said that to myself. Why did I say that? Because this goes back to what we're saying about being covered. It all reverts back to going back to the creation story in Genesis. It's all going to go back to him anyway. His not studying, being studious, not being, because there's precepts and there's the requirements of men and women. But the point is, in that last paragraph, if he does not live, like Chief answered in the question, if he does not live towards and take upon his that covering, and if that's not on his dome to free for his dome to be clear, for his dome to be filled with the Most High, if it's not, he will corrupt her, which, as it states, is a danger to society. That means the children are corrupted. That means the dog is corrupted. I'm just joking. But the point is, look what happens from the perspective of how the Most High looks upon us. If we are not properly living under guidance, if we don't have if we don't honor our covering, if we don't honor this, when I read that, and I kept reading that last part of that under leadership, yeah, you and I may be the leaders, but what difference does it make if we're corrupted?
Mm-hmm.
And by doing so, that makes her more unrighteous. And so what are you doing? You're going against, this is going back to Genesis story. He blamed Eve for listening to the serpent, but the point is, okay, one, did you discern if she was purposely to be in your kingdom? Did you choose her wisely?
You mean
Secondly, did you teach her? Did you teach her? If she was too idle, if she had idling thoughts and idling minds, either she's taking directions from you, but she can't take directions from you because you're idle yourself. That plays a role in her. That will also, but the point is, it corrupts society. That's basically what, when I read that, and I keep reading that part, that ending of that part in leadership, at the end of the day, it's still your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like this young man that I was sharing that is deceased.
Right. I was going to say.
It's still, yeah, you allowed her, but guess what? She's still here. But go ahead.
The story you were telling me, it was a similar situation with him taking cues from her,
mm-hmm.
and that ultimately leading to, what happened there
because
of the space that he was in.
Mm-hmm. And this go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying it's not like this happened back in the day.
Right.
This is like a formula. This is what happens when you shift up that order.
Right. Right. And you don't have a covering. You don't have any eldership. You have no community. There's no union because you didn't want to have a union. You didn't want to be in a community. You didn't want that. So now you're bare. You're naked. You're exposed. You got to deal with the consequence, the elements of the unknown. Because not just for him, but look at how most people outside I knew, but they explained that, I've heard the story many times. I've heard, especially from some of the males as well as the females, that'll say, well, I'm good. You don't have no counsel. You don't have no, I'm good. I'm doing good. Okay. But see, again, they don't realize the dangers that lurk. And we brought up the story of Akizak's favorite movie, but it's also my favorite movie too, The Lion King. We were talking about that.
Yeah, it's your favorite movie, but you were messing up on the names
I was
backstage.
messing up, but see, we ain't gonna tell him that. 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 That was between us. That's our joke between us. But guess what? Master Menelik was the one that was there. That's my witness. Again, going back to community, my brother, he corrected me. I ain't mad at him. What am I? Please, because I was wrong. It was fun, but the point is, it's okay. But go ahead, Master Menelik.
Yeah, man. But yeah, with that example, we were talking about. It was two examples because we both brought up two examples. It was a similar situation of people going beyond pre-established boundaries.
Right.
And this talking about covering as well, because that's one of the aspects of covering for the man is establishing boundaries.
Right.
And this is like one of the first things that if you go to the video of the betrothal ceremony, this is like one of the first things she was saying. When we're talking about establishing boundaries, you're establishing where you can go and where you can't go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this is established, clearly established with Simba, because Mufasa is like, you must never go there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it's like, what about that dark, shadowy place? You must never go there. That's
Right.
beyond our borders, right? You use the word border. You know, that's beyond our borders. So you must never go there. And what does he do? He goes there, right? And he goes there expecting it to operate the way his father's domain operates.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, well, I can do whatever I want, you know. And Zazu saying, it's dangerous here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this place is too dangerous. We need to go because this is way beyond the borders of the Pride Land. We got to go. And Simba's like, danger. I laugh in the face of danger. And then
Right.
danger shows up. And what
Right.
does he do? If you watch how they animate that clip, he jumps behind Zazu and Nala. He puts both of them in danger. And he brought them there,
Mm-hmm.
right? He eventually, like, his kitty, his kitty let it drop a little bit. I'll put it that way, right? he, he had his moments where he had to learn a level of bravery, but it was foolish for him to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still talking like tough talk to the hyenas when they come out because
Right.
he's like, "You can't do anything to me." But
Right.
Zazu makes a point. He says technically they can
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're on their land.
Right.
We ain't in Kansas no more. You can't just go around expecting everyone to conform to what's going on in your house. You know, so he had this distortion of what the kingdom was and what the boundaries were and what it means to be a king. You think you can just go everywhere and do whatever you want. And one of the first things Mufasa says once the danger is gone is, "You deliberately disobeyed me. We're going home. Like I'm not even gonna do what I need to do here. We're going
Mm-hmm.
home, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna chew you out." You know, and the exact same thing happened in Thor, in Marvel's Thor, the first one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's like, he went to Jotunheim or the realm of the giants, frost giants, and he just picked a fight for no reason. And Loki's like trying to be the voice of reason, like, let's go. Right? And he's given an opportunity to leave. But as he's leaving, someone says something insulting. Now he's going to start a war where I don't know how many of his people will die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Odin shows up, and Laufey, who's like the HNIC in that scene, he was like, "Your boy sought out this fight," you know, and he was like, "Please just treat them as the actions of a boy. You know, these are the actions of a boy." But you can see in that scene, even with Thor saying, "Father, we'll fight them together," and he's like, "What are you talking about? Like silence. What are you talking about? Pull it back, fall back." And he had to like he got them home, and then he chewed his son out. But you can see in both cases, like no
Yeah.
matter what, the responsibility fell on the covering,
Mm-hmm.
on the head, right? He had to go and clean up the mess,
Right.
you know. But imagine if he wasn't like if they both weren't on their square, like if they both weren't working out, or if they both weren't, well, Odin does some questionable stuff, but if Mufasa wasn't like moving as righteously as he could, as he was, or giving his son all of that wise counsel,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Um, if they weren't on their square, that would be like a whole different thing. You
Right.
know, this is like how many decades of your life would you spend fighting a war, or trying to explain a situation away, or
Right.
trying to explain a murder away, or like Thor was killing people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or trying to explain a rape away, like because you're not guarding the seeds that you planted, or you planted the seeds in the soil that you weren't like discerning,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So even not just your ability to cover, your capacity to cover, but who you decide to cover
Mm-hmm.
as well. Having children is a decision to cover on another level because you're already covering because you have a mate. But all of these things are decisions. Even with sisters claiming that the males that they lay with aren't doing their job, it's still a level of discernment and choice. Like we talked about earlier, is discernment goes into this.
Right.
So if you make the choice to cover someone or something, whether or not it's like if you buy a car and the car is used and you don't do your due diligence and check it out to see how many previous owners it had, how many crashes it's been in, you know, if someone actually stole the motor
Mm-hmm.
and while the owner wasn't looking,
If there's some water damage from a flood, because they don't tell
right,
you that, fire, yeah,
right, or there's dry rot, if there's like um, dry rot in some of the components, and as soon as you try to run some fluid through it, you got a bunch of leaks. Like you don't check none of that, but then you get a car and you want to just run around cursing out the guy who sold it to you. It's like no, you decided you want this car. If there was a bill of sale, your signature would be on it.
mm-hmm.
If there was one. Some people just give cash and go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, it's covering, right? And it's establishing in the mind, like the Bereshit is establishing in the mind what it is, what the manifestation of the Most High's will be. Even with Hawa being from Adam's self-conscious or subconscious, right? It's showing you all of the things that you don't see about yourself, all of those unseen parts, and you have to explore and ensure that you cultivate her in a way where she's reflecting what it is that you're striving towards, right? And you're striving towards reflecting and being a manifestation of the Most High, who
Mm-hmm.
is your highest conception of that sacred thought. But if you can't follow that line of that hierarchy, if it's just me and my feelings, and this person who's over here who I just rub up against, and eventually something happens. Now I got a child that I just pay to feed. There's no roles there. There's just cause and effect.
Right.
And as a result, you're not creating deliberately, and you're bringing about chaos. You're bringing about disorder when your job is to bring about order.
Right. As you're sharing, I was thinking about, and you were saying about seeds. I remember when Chief was using in the segment, he was talking about uncovered land. And can you imagine an uncovered land with what? There's all kinds of unforbidden seeds or whatever is there. But the point is, it's uncovered. You don't know what's there. You don't know what's growing in there. And so that's why it's so vital to make sure that land that's uncovered is not. It could be a detriment. It could be it's going to be a problem. And so that's why I'm glad when he used that example. So then, just like going back to us as men, we got to be very careful that we plant our seeds in fertile, but not just fertile, but in in a covered lands. What? Say it again.
I said, yeah, not just fertile.
Not just fertile. I just realized when I did that. But well, they're gonna be fertile, but I'm trying not to. But the point is, I messed up with my thoughts. But anyhow, making sure that it's in proper soil. You don't want to plant your seed in uncovered soil that can be a problem. It's gonna, like you said, it's gonna, like you said earlier, it's gonna come back to haunt you. You don't, and I learned definitely. That's one of the things that I'm grateful for, how Chief was breaking it down, especially with these segments. Is that if you, there's no excuse. There is no excuse for you to, if you just follow these lessons or so and apply them, you won't have to worry about that. You won't have, if you just like with Simba, Simba, if you just don't, you saw in the Lion King, right? Don't do what Simba do. Go under the Pride Lands and go around there and playing ego and think, oh, and then what? Get caught up. If you just do this, then guess what? You'll be under the covering. You won't suffer the consequences for going against the directions and again against those boundaries, because we all of us, men as well. I was sharing with someone else, and I was explaining that yes, I have a sense of freedom, but there are boundaries though. I live within boundaries. Now that doesn't take away from my freedom. It's just that I understand that there's things I cannot do. I'm okay with that. Some people may take it like, by being that means there are consequences. There are some consequences I am not going to go through. And there's some that I learned. But the point is, because I have the guidance, because I'm covered, even us, we're covered in multiple ways. And that's not to be taken lightly. Now, of course, if we go against it, then there's going to be consequences for it. And then and our chief juggler, like always, and he's done it. He's done it with us because we want to be Simba. We want to go to the Pride Land. We told you, don't go over there. You did it anyway. And Chief got that deep voice. So, but the thing is, it could have been avoided. Don't do it. Don't go beyond the Pride Lands. If you just stay under this covering, if you just stay and follow these directions, follow this order, you'll be fine.
Right. And we behind too. This is 8:30. So it's like half an hour ago. You being about to encircle you 8 times. She wanted to make sure that knot was tight. Yeah. Emma Sequoia says, showing myself to be a capable helpmeet, providing peace, rest, and assurance, covering children. Chief says, all the people who have no answer to this are either poor listeners or self-interested. No one should read them. They are unfocused and unworthy mates.
Yeah.
And Akizak, peace, Akizak.
Peace.
Sister Yafe, okay, she puts forth another answer, fully stepping into my role as wisdom to ensure the completion of the knowledge, wisdom, understanding equation. Yamina says, covering the soft underbelly and sensitive parts emotionally, expanding your vision and submitting to your enlightenment and transformation. Akizak says, what happens? The mind is not well versed in the culture, and she is more committed to the doctrine, which should happen then. And then he says, please forgive me. This has already been answered. Yeah, we behind. You're talking about language. I don't know what language that was. I think it's probably the Lion King.
No, he was talking about Lion King. Yeah, Lion King.
More than likely, it's the Lion King.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what some of them when you said Lion King. Akizak also says, as Chief would often say, for every mental mistake, there's a physical consequence, right?
Yeah.
Sister Yafe says, water seeks out its own level. Peace in the Akira Eden. And then Sister Yafe says, if the land is uncovered, any old seed can blow into the uncovered plot of land and begin to sprout weeds amidst the crop. Now you have diverse seeds, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know where the line of authority goes. So you don't even know where the accountability is. Who's responsible? Right. Like, whose man's is this? Whose child is this? You can't say. And that's one of the aspects of covering too, because it's a disgrace to a man if his woman is helping diverse seeds, bringing forth diverse seeds, and he's like, I don't know where that got it. I don't know where she got it from, Or if there's a child and you're not sure if it's yours, or if it turns out that it's not yours, and she's been deceiving you. That being another aspect to it. There's a Proverbs. There is Proverbs 12:4. Virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness to his bones.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all ever felt like cracking in your bones or arthritis, or even fish poisoning, and you feel bad. It feels like your bones are turning to jelly. Like that is not pleasant. And she is as rottenness to his bones, rottenness in his bones.
Yes.
That's a serious discomfort there.
Yeah.
Some serious shame. But that it goes down to what did you get from your L, right? And how does that determine your decision making? And even with the required quality, filled with the Spirit of the Most High, filled with the Spirit of the highest God. So if you're filled with the Spirit of the highest God, you have those laws inside of you, and all of your decisions are made from those laws. And you pour that out to your women, but also importantly, you pour that out into your children, right? So your daughters know, like to Aki Zach's question too, your daughters know where that godliness comes from. Your daughters know who has the law and who doesn't, who has that spirit and who doesn't.
Right.
Going to Proverbs 3 as well, right? Verses 1-7. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck, write them upon the table of thy heart, so shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. So all of this is telling you that at the top of that hierarchy, actually, I think the image is in here. Yeah,
there you go.
Top of that hierarchy, you already have the Elohim at the top.
Right.
And people try to take that out.
Right.
And be like, I'm the man, you should listen to me. Are you listening to your El? And are you filled with that spirit? Are you filling yourself with those laws day in and day out?
Right.
Are you seeing even parts where you don't follow those laws? And are you submitting to that correction? There was we were talking about the what ifs. I brought that up earlier too. And there's I'm not gonna pull it up on screen, but there was something that Chief said in that segment, and it was about curating information, right? And he says when you're coming into a certain kind of teaching, really etching those teachings into our heart, which requires preservation, it requires curation, and it requires memorization of what's being taught. And once you have them etched in your heart, it'll always be, it's like a dome, like he hid. It's like, because you realize you did something you weren't supposed to do.
Right.
And you were trying to remove yourself from those thoughts. Like Chief was talking about in that segment, about those who live a wicked life or do dirty stuff, but they try to cover it with righteous things. Like they try to wear all the cloth and keep their head wrapped and say peace and hotep.
Right.
And they really cause others to blaspheme. Right? He was talking about Titus. You're walking around saying all these things, but your actions and deeds, they're defaming the things that are supposed to be sacred. It's like you're piling dirt on them, or you're dragging them through the mud with you. So when people look at those words now, they associate them with you, and not like the actual concept that it's pointing to. You know,
Exactly.
So no one wants to say hotep anymore because you ruined it. There's
Right.
always that one person who just ruins stuff. Like you just let that person hear it, and they're just gonna ruin it. No, don't let Bobby know. Don't tell Eugene. You know?
Which is gonna get out anyway, because I was sharing with someone. You said that you can't keep a secret from Elohim. If he don't want it to get out, it won't get out. It's that simple. But guess what? It's so funny that you're just sharing that, because that's why we get like these little secrets are going out. But then again, they go back to they cover themselves. I remember we were talking about they want to be in the shadows, and I remember you were breaking it. I'm like, so now people, like you said, it's like they discover they're naked, but like, okay, I'm gonna be in the shadows. I'm gonna hide. Okay, but it's still gonna come out. People don't, even to this day, people don't really realize it's still going to be exposed. It's still going to come out. You cannot hide it. And again, you can never hide it from the Most High. That is where it's just, but again, going back to, we were saying about the, in Supreme Mathematics, those 85%, that deaf, dumb, and blind, they choose to be there. They don't want to cover it. Okay, but that's why the world is going through what it is, because people can people can hide, or like you said, go into the shadows and think that you can hide the truth. It's not. You're not going to be able to hide it. You're not going. It's gonna eventually come back and haunt you.
Right, and people do that often by. There was another thing that Chief had mentioned in terms of the what ifs, right? And pulling from, like, sometimes you pull from an environment that's against you.
We were talking about
Right?
this.
Right. It's an environment that's adverse to you. And I think about the covering that people seek refuge under, but it's the covering of the state. Right? So you're seeking refuge with those who are actually seeking to destroy you. And you're thinking that you're getting it, but again, like you were talking about, it's a temporary thing. You know, you're staying in the shadows, or you're doing something, and you're like, it may come out eventually, but at least for a year or two, I get to reap some benefits. You know, and hopefully they outweigh the consequences, which they never do.
Right.
You know, because it always balances itself out. Like Sister Yaffe said, water seeks its own level. Right. So you're seeking refuge with those who are attempting to destroy you, and you're willing to sell the other elements of that equation out to reap a very brief and temporary benefit. You know, like these are one of the stumbling blocks of seeking covering with those who are unrighteous, or looking to be covered by material things, as opposed to having that line or that connection. Right? Them Chief's words. I think she was talking about what she was saying in the chat. Let me go to the chat real quick to make sure we're still caught up. Peace. They'll fly KM or Kim, or they'll fly KM. Siafe, that's the other side of the Arom, which means cunning and deceitful. Okay. Listening to wicked ones can lead to us being naked, which could be like us walking away from the covering, or our actions resulting in the loss of our covering and being naked. And I think them Chief's words. Oh, okay. Water seeking is one level. That's Chief. All right. I gotta make sure. You never know.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of Chief, Peace,
Peace.
Shakira.
Peace,
Yeah.
brothers.
Peace,
How you
Chief.
moving?
Great. Yeah, man, great. Just been following along. Um, there was a question that Zach asked that I was hoping could get a little bit more love. So I'll just power
Okay.
drive through it.
I think it was this one.
Yeah. I think that's a important question.
hmm Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. What happens if the man is not well versed in the culture and she is more committed to the doctrine? What should happen then? There's a lot of things that could happen, um, but what should happen? What should happen when she has? Well, the thing is, she's always going to be versed in the culture. That's like her role to be like the keeper of it. I think you had mentioned, I can't remember when. I remember you said, Chief, that she's going to be the one who's like, this is the law. The law says this is how it happens. The law says that's how it happens, and you want her to be like that because it shows that um, not only is she going to make sure the juniors and those under her are going to be following the law, but she's also going to be following the law too. So in terms of being more versed um, in the culture, I don't think that's more of an issue than her being more committed to the doctrine. Um, if he's not committed at all, then that's an issue. But
Right.
she should follow him. Whatever he does, if she comes under his covering, she does what he does. And that's one of it was always one of the trickier parts for me. And there's a part in the Anue on the capable. And it says, a woman's capability is strengthened when she resolutely submits to the will of her covenant leadership. The struggle of woman is to submit to man. The struggle of woman to submit to man is a difficult thing to do, but it is what the extraordinary divine mother and father call her to do. The loving headship of her master should fill her with regard that deter feelings of wanting to usurp his role or soar for her own interest above his crown. When a woman seeks to dethrone a man, he begins to remove his connective love from her and pours more of it into himself, making it even harder for her to submit to him. And then this is like italicized. Women, even if your master is in sin, that is no reason for you to be out of the will of the Most High by rebelling against him. The example that a woman sets as the daughter of Zion is more useful for her and the whole of the family than her intellectual insurgency against a disgraceful family head. And I don't know, it immediately brought to mind Abigail, but
Mm-hmm.
how my mind works, like I don't like sticky situations like that, but it does happen. You know, my mind likes everything to be clean and work properly. So when something like that happens, um, where he's not in alignment with the Most High, and she's striving to be in alignment with the Most High, that alignment still compels her to be obedient to Him, right? And it felt like, I don't know, to me, on one hand, it adds up, like there's no contradiction, and on the other hand, it feels like a catch 22.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
I understand the words. Yeah, I understand the words. Yeah.
Ain't like you didn't write it.
Well, yeah. I mean, my part that makes sense. Yeah. What do you think, Abu? How would you answer that?
Woo! That's you know, for him to humble himself, to know that he's wrong, and still striving to correct his error. Because why? If he's not in alignment, the desire has to be in him. But of course, if she's already striving and she's already have that, I agree with like Mr. Menlo was saying. All she has to do is focus on keeping herself understanding that, so that she's not overstepping him or overstepping because of the confusion. Soon, the Most High is going to. He's definitely going to intervene, and how he's going to intervene? He's going to intervene. It's going to be in different scenarios. So the way I would look, as I would, I was actually sharing this with someone just asked that question, and I just basically shared one, the honor, respect has to still be there. Meaning, maybe I understand you're not honoring him, but you still have to understand that in the role playing, that keep yourself in a way that you're not overstepping. And so by striving to be the woman striving, because again, it's not her place to correct him. She can't correct him because regardless he's wayward or not, he's got to. The only correction is going to come is from a community or elders or men. But for her, like Master Medical was saying about Abigail, because I've been going back and forth, and I'm still studying Abigail. That is still even though it's a touchy subject, but at the same time, striving to continue to be the woman that the Most High is, and but you also, it was answered. That's true. It was answered. It actually not too long ago, and that is right. That. I'm sorry, Master Miller.
I think it was answered. It was answered, but Chief made a good point. Like, we didn't give it enough love, and because of that,
right?
Like the way we glossed over it, anyone could gloss over the answer.
Right.
Just pretend they didn't hear it. Because if you give a long answer, this whole segment was about it. They'll pretend like the segment didn't happen.
Right. And it's also like Chief was sharing. It's like we can't gloss over it, and that was wrong on our part, and that is because we have those who are not in Anu besides us in Anu. That is an important question. That definitely is an important question to respond. So this is going back to what we were saying about being covered, and making sure that to be corrected in this statement alone, this question alone. So that's what I would add.
With you that, I also agree with you that it should be the community, and more specifically the other brothers and his elders who are giving that correction to him.
Right.
Like, she shouldn't take it upon herself to do it. I'm not saying that was what your question was, but in terms of what should happen, then it's not on her to do anything but continue to do what she was covenanted to do. It's on the elders in the community and the other brothers to ensure that he receives correction and instruction and guidance. And I think that's my like the reason I didn't give it as much love, I think, is because I couldn't wrap my head around a head not being a capable head, and that not being addressed, not by the sister, but it just not being addressed. Like, this is, like if you see a source of heat sitting too close to a propane tank, it's sort of that level of discomfort, like that someone should move that. You can't let that sit there. It has to be addressed.
But things could be addressed, and they can be, you can be guilted out of digging. Sometimes things are addressed and people start acting like you're picking on them, or they start talking in circles, or they'll tell you things like, well, I'm trying, I've improved, I've gotten better. and you know that, well, that's not enough.
Right.
I think it's there's a very deep seated unfairness when a woman can be a problem reporter, as I've taught. She's the problem reporter, but she can never report a problem to you about you. You know, so if you are a drunkard, you come in the house drunk all the time, frightening the children, making noise, and acting in an unruly fashion, she has to wait around for the brothers to say something. And the brothers may have already spoken to him. You know, so now what happens? Well, I'll just wait on the Most High. But she can't at any point say, husband, this is not what I contracted for. When I contracted with you, this was our agreement. And I'm speaking to that agreement. And that agreement doesn't seem to be being honored. And I'm honoring my part, and I will continue to. But if I compared, see, this is why we do things with contracts.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at this contract here, it doesn't look like you're honoring your side of the agreement. And I wouldn't necessarily say there's anything inherently disrespectful about doing that. I'm sorry, one
It's
second. I
true.
just got to step off for a second. I'm sorry, I'll be right back.
There's no worries, Chief. You know, that provides, I'd say that it provides another dimension of clarity to this question, because I can't speak to it in terms of how a sister may feel, but I do see that there's some sort of trepidation um, between myself and Yamina. Like, she may not feel like, she's not sure what she should say if she sees something, you know. And through communication, it's like, no, if you see something, say something, you know, or if something makes you uncomfortable, speak to it. And I don't. It goes to, if you hold something in long enough, it's gonna like ferment in your stomach, and then it's gonna come out like nasty. Like Chief would always use the example of you holding all of these, um, you suppressing all of your feelings, or you suppressing all of these things that you need to say or you need to express, and when they finally come out, they come out nasty, or they come out under pressure, you know, and they cause damage that they may not necessarily need it to cause.
You know, and just to add to what you're saying, Master Miller, it goes back to when Chief was sharing some time ago. I think it was on Fellowship, and he was breaking down the he was measurements.
Measurements, okay.
Measurements, and not necessarily the measurements of a woman, but he was breaking down the circumference of the earth. He was the body of water. He was breaking, and that all entails into knowing the depths and the heights of the woman, her moods, her not. And this is why when he said that, and I'm literally going back to that to study that, because this is going back to like what you just was at with Akizak put in the question about her. Mm-hmm. This going back, actually his question is correlating to what was mentioned in leadership when I mentioned earlier about us as men, that we are, that is you're corroding society by not fulfilling your part. And that's like when you were just sharing, and as we're both communicating with Chief with the question, I'll be honest with you, it stumps me. And it stumps me because and I've heard this, and I've actually communicated with but then it's not all well, now it's different in a way, but my point is it goes back to why you need, like we're saying, the subject about covering, you need a community, you need elders, you need I could be able to be on this live talking the way we're talking without our Chief Jugna giving his knowledge, but also I'm learning about her dimensions.
Yeah, but you know what? As a man, you need a set of balls
Yeah.
because your community could be. I've had people in I knew who've been here for a long time who have never dived into the material that I've taught at the level that they should. And as a result, you see calamity in their life. And they'll sit there and say, well, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to do it. How the hell could you not know when I've been teaching it to you all these years? You don't have any balls in your pants.
Mm.
There's no you need to go get your testosterone checked. You might need TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. There's something wrong there. So,
Yeah.
it's so easy to say that, yeah, when you got a community, you get this, you get that. But I'm telling you, as a head of a community who's headed up other communities, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are of a reprobate mind. They just have chosen that they're going to be a disagreeable. They're a 10 percenter in the environment. I'm going to do evil and no one's going to tell me anything else. So in that sort of environment, what is someone supposed to do when they're subject to that? I know for me as a man, my whole vibe and feeling is just like, I don't have to deal with you. What's all that noise in the background?
One of us
I
probably
got a
has to
cat chewing on the thing or something. The
be
phone.
cat chewing on ice.
Right.
Cat is always chewing on ice with tears.
I think there's a lot of times there's a subtraction of the role of the woman and even the power and choice of the woman because you go back to Genesis 3:15, and I will put an enmity between thee and the woman and between thy seed and her seed. We always talk about the man has a seed, right? In the beginning, it told you the seed was the woman's, but we don't speak about that part. you know, Even the fact that when she was first brought to Adoma, she was brought as a helpmeet, but that word help is Ezer. And when you translate Ezer, it means assist, but it doesn't imply inferiority. It doesn't imply servitude. It doesn't even imply that she should be subordinate to the man. It means that she's supposed to assist him in what he is doing. But it doesn't even imply that they were not equals. It wasn't until they fell that she said, you know what? Now he's going to rule over you. Now. And your desire will be to him. But what that means is that if it was commanded that she's going to rule over him, that means she already had a power within herself. And in fact, her power may have been so strong that he was like, well, I'll do what you tell me to do. So the Most High had to step in and say, hey, just because she makes all these tingles go through your body every time you see her breast bouncing around and her booty and all that, you still better listen to me. You see, so I even say when we have all these conversations around covering, I think it's important also to think about why we're having these conversations. Are we trying to convince someone that we need to cover them? Because as men of the Most High, we don't have to do that. If someone says, "Well, I don't see why I got it," all right, then you probably don't. See, because that's that Adoma thinking. Where it's you're thinking from a deficit, or you thinking with your penis, which is another weak-willed way to approach life. You see, so I think it's more than just having a community. It's also getting out of your basal nature. It's getting out of your root chakra and seeing the larger picture. Ezer again, and that's used in other places in the Bible. You read in Matthew's, Ezer was used again, but it was used to speak about a king and his servants in the king's court. They helped the king get things done, but they were very capable people. So the moment when a woman is told, well, he will rule over you, that's one of the reasons why I say her submission is a powerful statement, because there's a part of her that's saying, I can do a lot of what you can do because I was built to actually just be your help, which means I was built to help you complete something, to fulfill something. That's what I'm here for. Not to necessarily be bossed around because I'm so dumb and I'm so inferior, right? Now, yes, the woman is the weaker vessel, so I'm not going to even play around with that one. But at the same time, like I've often said, and I'll continue to say, beating your chest and saying, you need to come under my covering is a load of bull, because we have standards that I could say, well, hell, are y'all meeting the standards? Not y'all two, but in general. Do you have land? Do you have a business? Businesses. Do you have a year's worth of food supply for you and her? Do you speak more than 25 words in your native tongue? That's just a small sample, right? We could just go through the list. Do you have any survivalism skills? Do you know how to kill and clean and cook clean animals? Do you know how to grow food? What do you know about money? Do you really know about money? Do you know how to turn a penny into $10,000? Do you know technology? When she comes up to you with issues about her 401k or what kind of career she should go into, are you truly educated in career and economics, or are you giving best guesses and experimenting? You see, so sometimes when we have to have these extended conversations around covering, it's because people are looking at us like, you ain't the son. It ain't you. You saying you the son, but you ain't the son. I could feel it. I could feel your vibration. And women do things like this. They do what we call SHIT tests. They do little things just to see where we're at. And sometimes we be failing them left and right. I was reading a post the other day where a guy was talking about he was out on a date with his girlfriend, and she ordered some curly fries or something, and she was saying her fries weren't that curly. So he picked out the most curly fry that was on his plate, and he gave it to her. And he's over there patting himself on the back, not realizing that was a test. She wanted to see if she could control him, if she could rule over him, and he failed it. Right? So women do stuff like that all the time, sometimes unbeknownst to the man. If you're not a fashioned and seasoned and wise man, you won't even know that she's testing you. And she recognized right then and there, this is not the one that the Most High said would rule over me. He ain't it. I was not built to be his Ezer. Maybe I could be his lover. I could this, that. He can give me some money. He can give me some advice, a little bit of advice he got, but he'll never rule over me. He'll never. And that word that was used for rule over her was dominate and make of. Make of, meaning like you will make her over. You will assimilate her. So when you're getting all that resistance, again, it's because you have to sometimes look at yourself and say, you know what, am I in alignment with what it is that I'm demanding or saying must be? I have never tried to convince a woman that I should cover her. I have never even told a woman that I should cover her. If I've had women come to me and say, Chief, I need your help. Chief, can you help me with this, help me with that? The only way I could do that is if you inside my house. Outside of that, I got nothing for you. I got no rap for you. I don't have time. I'm over here focused on this stable of women and children that I'm dealing with. I don't have time for anything extra or to give you some good advice. You got good advice, Chief. I don't give advice. I give instructions. You see? But I know that whatever I say is right and exact because my math is impeccable. I know that. If I tell you where to put your money's going to grow. If I tell you what car to get, the car is going to last you over 300,000 miles. I know what to tell you. If I tell you what to wear is going to make you healthier, if I tell you what to eat is going to make you healthier, if I give you a new language to speak, you're going to become a smarter person because my math is impeccable. You see, Allah spent 2 million years with himself before he made his second reflection. He studied himself because everything that has to be in her has to be in you first. And if you don't have any of it in you, you can't, there's holes in your umbrella. What you covering? Now she under you and she's getting rained on. And you still saying, yeah, but don't say nothing to me though. Remember, can't say nothing to me. Yeah, but there's a hole. Don't speak about my umbrella now. I get real sensitive about stuff like that. You see? So I think, just the science of it's kind of similar to what I told you brothers about the retreats. I mean, I sit here and be telling me, it's good. Come on and meet up. I mean, F all that. What we doing is great. Now I know for me as a man, if someone says, "Oh, Chief, I want to get with you, Chief, but I don't know if I'm ready for all that covering." If you don't get your simple ass up from away from me, you don't see what's in front of you. Go find another one of me. And then when you don't, sit down on some steps, like them steps that's in the back of my picture. Sit down and think about how dumb you are. You see, that's how I think. I'm the baddest black man on the planet. I know I am. You see? So but I can show and prove who I am. I can show and prove I'm the maker, owner, sole controller. I can show and prove that I'm the cream of the planet Earth. That ain't bragging. Because that work has been put in. So why would I have to convince anyone of anything? And why would I want to just cover anything? Because my easier is supposed to help me and assist me in getting the job done. It's not a one-way street where it's, I feel I cover her so I feel good because I did something good for somebody. That's not what the Most High said. Oh, let's give Adoma something to do. Give him somebody to take care of so he'll feel good about it. Making some babies so he'll feel like a man. No, let's give him someone to help him get his work done. That's it. But it's his work. It ain't her work. It's the garden we gave him. We can give it to her. So if she gets to come in and have something to do, hey, you can come over here and you can shovel the manure. She should be celebrating. I get a spot in the garden. She can't dictate anything because it's not yours. It was given to me. But now, if he's not tending to the garden properly, then she can say, hey, I can't really do my job because you're not doing your job. That's fair.
We're about to walk in the talk and not being not being of a mindset that you can ask anyone else to do something you're not willing to do. You can't expect someone to study if you don't study. You can't expect someone to know the laws or follow the laws if you don't do it.
And you got to ask yourself why are you even asking them to do any of that?
That should be the attracting point in terms of how you're moving, because that should be the first thing they see about you. It shouldn't be things that you put on to attract people, because you'll get what you like. If you put out cheese, you're gonna catch a rat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using external things to attract a mate, then you'll get someone that's shallow. You can't really expect someone to be deep and be attracted by the shallowness of whatever it is you're carrying out. You're going to attract what you are.
Or you'll attract someone who has sense in their head.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I don't have that I'll cover you convincing conversations, because dummy, don't you know you need to be covered by someone like me? Oh, you didn't even realize it? Then you know how much of a headache you're going to be if I put you inside of my house? I've been practicing polarity for a very long time. I'm not new to plurality. I've been having a bunch of women. And even before I even knew what plurality and polygyny was, in high school, I always had 10 girlfriends who knew each other. Before high school, my kindergarten picture, what I still have it, my graduation from kindergarten, I had 2 girlfriends, and my arms are around both of them. My teacher used to always laugh at it with my mother. Your son got 2 girlfriends? I've been doing this. This is not new to me. So I know what brings the confusion into the space. Insecurity is the number one thing. I know what brings that confusion. If someone says, well, why should I get with you? You shouldn't. Don't even think about nothing I just said. Go on and do what you was doing. Because you're an idiot. And I already know what you're gonna bring idiocracy into my environment. Now, if you are raggedy, then you got to start doing a lot of convincing. If you're not, see, as a man, we're positive energy. That means we expand outside of the womb. Everything I'm doing, you can see. Google me. I told it female that before. She was like, "What do you Google me? I don't have time to be sitting explaining it. Google me. I'm all over the internet. You'll find me." You see what I'm saying? The stuff I'm doing, you can see what I'm doing. It's no secret. You see, hell, in that picture in my profile right there, I'm standing in front of a church that I was renovating in West Africa while advertising an ex-member's little clothing line she had. You see everything I'm doing because I'm a man, so everything I'm doing is going to be out in the sun. What she does is in the moonlight. That's cool too, though. You see, but if anybody's got to ask what you up to, it would be me. But I'm the one that's shining light through her nightness anyway, her nighttime. So I see what she's doing anyway, even though it might even be in the dark, because I can see through the dark. Because the only light that's in the dark is coming from me anyway. So all that convincing and all that's because you ain't got your stuff together. You know, and if you ain't got your stuff together, why are you trying to dip your pee-pee? You should be focused on building who and what you're supposed to be as a man, because you can't find your identity through your family. You know, that's not the man's job. That's the woman completes the cipher through having children. Her identity and her show and proveness is through the family. The man has to show and prove that he's king before the family even steps in the room, or he never gets a family. King, the root of it is kin. Kin is family. He is a family unto himself. He is the wife. He is the children. He's everything. So now when it's time to make that, he's there. When he's making, he makes a wife. He makes children. And he's able to make those things because they are already within him. So in his mind, he can now produce them. But if he hasn't made those things, does he still have a little boy inside of him that's unfathered? Is he at peace with his feminine side? Because that's his wife. You see, if he hasn't balanced his own internal ecosystem yet, he is not worthy. He's only going to create confusion because he doesn't even know what the hell he's making. Some people do that, man. I've been like that with women. They get in the kitchen. Hey, what you making for dinner? Why are you in the kitchen? I know what that means. You don't know what you're making. You're just cutting up vegetables and you're going to throw them in a skillet with some oil. And while it's frying up, you're going to go look in the cabinet and see what might work with it. Oh, we got some leftover teriyaki sauce. I'm going to throw that in there. Okay, a little soy sauce. I'm going to throw some of that in. Oh, ginger. Yeah, I'm going to throw some of this ginger in it. And I'll come back because I know you don't know what you're making. I'll say, what's the name of that? Why don't you leave me alone? Yeah, because you're making up stuff. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You don't know what's going to come out. But you know, as long as you put some oil in it, some salt and pepper, it's going to be something.
Right, some garlic.
Right, some garlic and some mushrooms. I ain't dumb. I know a freestyle dish when I see one.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
saying? If
they
have the net for it, they know what they're doing. It's usually an annoying amount of detail.
Right. And they didn't prepare themselves. They said, oh man, it's such and such time. I know he about to come in and say he hungry, about to kick the side of the refrigerator. Or if it's me, he gonna leave. It's this time. Ain't no food in the house. I'm gonna lose my staff appointment tonight. Cause yeah, Chief will just leave. He'll go to another sister's house. You know, and I lost my whole appointment because I decided to start dinner late. So she'll slap something together, think I don't know what's slapped together. You see, now my stomach's burning because you just fed me poison. You see? Yeah, man, that's how it goes. You know? So it's the same thing on the man's side. You slapping stuff together, or you really have a methodical system that you've established that when you say covering, well here, you go into, where should I be? Oh, your position is going to be B37. You can go over there. You know, I know exactly where I'm putting you on this board. You see?
Yeah, man. That's a piece where people start to shut down. It's fun when you can beat your chest and talk about what your sisters need. Your sister is like, okay, what you got going on? But I've been trying to, I'm trying to get signed.
Right, I'm trying to get out of this 360 deal.
Yeah,
360 deal.
I got these CDs on my phone.
Right, I'm
How
flipping
long?
CDs. I got
How long it been there?
DVDs too. Right, I got Terminator 3. What? Yeah, Terminator 3. You seen it yet? Well, if you ain't seen it, it's like it's new. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, man, like you ain't got your stuff together. What you really doing? Sister Sequoia, I saw in the chat, also asked,
Yeah.
would you be willing to provide some examples of how you learned how to cover?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
On
right,
my
what y'all
side,
got? Come on.
a lot of it has to do with listening and really reading between the lines, because the piece about being problem reporters, with women being problem reporters, it goes beyond them just coming to you and stating a problem. Like, you could always see when something's wrong. You can always hear when something's wrong. It's in the tone of voice. Sometimes it's I don't want to say passive aggressive, but you want to say it straight, but you don't want to say it straight. So you start giving off signals and signs like, "You all right? Yeah, stop lying. You know you ain't all right. What's the problem?" Instead of just saying this is the problem, but also making them comfortable enough. Like, no, like if there's a problem, then state the problem now if you see it. Um, and you may not even know I'm already working on the problem. You may not even know that I have something in place for that problem. But if you just keep it to yourself, or climb up about it, or go tell someone else about it, like the communication is off too. Um, so that was one of the things, listening, but also being able to delegate, because sometimes, like in the beginning, especially, like what I needed done wasn't communicated clearly, and there would be like all these revisions to what I told
Mm-hmm.
sister to do. And it's like, all right, do this for me. And then she brings me back like, okay, I need this. I got like the Dark Knight in my mind, and she brings me McDonald's. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
where was the breakdown communicate? So I got to go back and really select my words carefully, and even the number of words used. The more words you throw out there, the more room there is for confusion. So I even learned to give like really direct, concise um, direction,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps with productivity, because you don't have to go back and forth with a bunch of edits. You can move on to the next thing. So listening attentively, like even when words aren't being said, and watching like even like what's going on around you, like your car being messed up is something. It's telling me something, or you not you not being able to manage your time properly is telling
Mm-hmm.
me something too. It's like, okay, that we gotta sort that out. We gotta fix that. I gotta fix that. I gotta sort that out. And it's just teaching you. It's like being a mechanic. It's like, is this a well-oiled machine, or does it keep breaking down? Is it like that old generator that never kicks in? You always got to go out the back and manually fix it, or is it something that just the family system in general? Is it something where, like you were saying, is B37? Like this piece is exactly where it needs to be on the board. You know,
Right.
like those are some of the lessons that I learned.
And what I can chime in on this. There's multiple things. I study you. When I study the woman, I pay attention to every single detail. What do I mean? I know your strengths and your weaknesses. I know what you're going to say before you say it. But more importantly, Master Menelik was saying something, and I definitely, you got to be able to listen, because two things that goes in when what I've learned is that you got to pay attention to everything. And so what I generally do is to measure, and by learning is everything starts simple. So basically your health right there, let's just use that as an example. Your health, if it breaks down, that's going to affect finance. That's going to affect your thinking. That's going to affect how you react, how you assimilate certain things. So all of those things, I put that in an equation. And so, and also what I've learned, well, one thing, what I do is generally is I talk, and what the study is more importantly, because when you do it, you're studying the mannerisms, you're studying all kinds of things, and that gives me the opportunity to, like I said, know the strengths and weaknesses, and then go where, if I have to build on any weaknesses, struggles, I study on how I'm able to if it's, let's just say it's health. Let's use an example as health for that person, because every person is different. Every woman has a different way of how she present things versus another. So you have to study that way, particularly how she assimilates listening to you. If she's like, especially instructions, because you got to be able to, you have to be able to know and study her to the point where, how does she assimilate your instructions? How does she assimilate you giving her lessons or sharing things or asking comments from her? That helps me to understand how to manage her. Okay. And more importantly, building her. Because like I said, it's, and also you have to know her purpose first, but you have to know your own very much. You like Chief was sharing, you have to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, you're not going to be able to assimilate and take, you're not going to be able to manage and correct her. But if you, more importantly, if you don't manage and correct yourself, you're not going to be able to, because like Chief is sharing, and I'm still learning a lot. A lot of this takes from learning, especially from Chief and the men that, like you said, that have balls and stand up and do it. That's the real work that goes into assimilating how to do this job, do this work. If you don't take that in consideration, if you don't apply those things and put them into action, it will fail. So that's how I continue to learn from Chief. Even what he just shared tonight is a lot, but it has to be applied. So, but yeah, I first, the key is study. So that's how I learned. Study you. No, like Chief was breaking down even some Strongs ago about the dang it, I keep fumbling with words today. The circumference. I'm just anyway, I'm not gonna mess up the word.
You try to say diameter.
There you go.
Is that it?
Diameter.
Okay.
I know. I'm just so my point is, all of those come into play when I learned to cover her. But more, like I said, it's just the studying her and mastering that, and then by mastering, you can help her. Also, there's times where where someone's not coverable. Do I know it all? No, I'm still learning. But for the most part, I'm like, nope, like Chief was saying, nope. If you got to start coming in on new with Chief and paying attention, it helped me to really, really do the work properly and applying the work. Because again, Chief makes it very simple. He makes it seem simple, but it is work. But one of the things Chief said, and I keep in mind, he's saying, if she's not receptive, well, one, are you receptible? That's it. That's one key. You got to be receptible. If you're not able to be receptible, how can you expect her to be receptible? How can you expect her to submit to you if you're not being submissive to your Most High? This, again, she's a reflection of you. If you're out of order, she can take that and make it worse. But it's because of your actions. It's because of your lack of. So, but that's I know it's a lot that I shared, and there's more, but yeah, that's what I would share to answer that question.
Well, you said that one of the things you do is you study the woman,
Mm-hmm.
like everything they do, and you pretty much know not pretty much. You said, I know what they're going to say before they say it.
Mm-hmm.
I know their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
How long would you say usually takes you to get to that point?
I can know that right away. You the first moment. You can know the mannerism will tell me everything right there. And then because again, by studying them, I study everything. So when I study it, I can see how it's not seeing from these opticals.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically seeing from lessons from you, Chief, have taught me about community. In other words, I know, like you said, I'll give you an example. Let me break this down to another example. I know if they're so worldly versus they're striving to do what is right. If they're worldly and they want to change, they will change. They'll be striving, like being honest and being real versus hiding it. Or like Master Menelik was saying earlier, you're hiding, you're trying to cover yourself, but you've already been exposed. I can see that you've been exposed, but are you being real? Can you be real? And so those are things that I look at. Let's have a real conversation. Let's have a real conversation. And again, Bell, we ask women to be vulnerable. How can I expect her to be vulnerable if I'm not willing to be vulnerable? We were just talking about me singing that song. I have to be willing to be vulnerable. I can't expect her to be nothing that I'm not willing to be. That's part of studying. And that's one of the things that I take in not just consideration, but I take it as a sacred moment, because I have to learn to be vulnerable myself with the decision, especially the mistakes I made. I had to make a lot of mistakes to still stay on the fact that regardless if I get it right or I don't have it, okay, damn it, am I willing to be honest with myself and like, you know what, you effed up. Real talk. Yeah, you effed up. But are you willing to be honest about that? And then know why you effed up. So when I'm conversing with a woman and I have to be convinced within myself first. But if I don't have that, how is she going to assimilate? How is she going to? Because when it comes down to, and I'm learning, and especially being in our new, and I'm grateful you as an example, because a lot of it goes into most people. Yeah, this. I'm not talking about the Jezebels. I'm not talking about the ones who just trying to be slick, and I can see that. But there's some that they played that slick game or something, like, okay, you know what, he can see that. So what I do is when I see all that slickness, I step back. I watch. And there are times I play dumb just to see. But that's to see, that doesn't take that long. That can take a day, that can take a week or so. But it shouldn't take that long. Because if it continues, that's it. You already know. It doesn't take that long.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take that long.
So in the book Noir Mel, I said, when masculine inner visions are imprecise, then the feminine wisdom of what women should create is also vague.
Mm.
If he is unwilling to create his own definitions relating to what surrounds him, and how it all signifies the framework of his purpose, he will find himself drowning in a sea of possible directions while unable to create or produce. So I think sometimes when we don't have a clear image of what the women are in our lives and how to channel and pour into them, then absolutely what happens is that they become unclear. They, like I said, they walk away scratching their heads. Like you said, you pretty much learn them right away. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of an immediate thing. Um, I'd say for me, for in answering that question, I think one of the things that example I can look at it, it goes back to Ezer. In kink, we have what's called power dynamics, and a power dynamic is essentially sometimes you have power dynamics that you just utilize in the bedroom, and sometimes it's a 24-hour, 7-day, a strong sort of thing. But it's essentially when one person gives their power away to another person as um as a just as that exchange, as that dynamic between them two. Now you could do it just in a scene, you could do it as an underlying energy inside of your relationship, or however, you know. So based on that, it's clear that it's still something being given up. So when a woman says, you know, I'm subordinate to you, it's not necessarily an organic or natural thing that she would just do that. She's giving her power to you and saying, here, I'm gonna let you hold this. But at any moment I can take it back from you. It's not really yours to keep. I'm leasing it out to you. But more so than that, I'm entrusting my power to you. And I think sometimes um we we don't realize, like, the server can make certain recommendations as to how they would like to serve as well. you know and you might say, no, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, but it's still a contractual power dynamic exchange. I think that's important when you're covering, instead of just stomping in the room like, yo, the book says this and the book says that, so this is what you do, this is what. Hey, I still have to consent. Consent is everything. I think that's an important thing. And again, when learning to cover, it starts before there's any woman. Learning things that I don't feel like learning are a part of me learning to cover. Eating things I don't want to eat are a part of learning to cover. Um, where I put my cell phone, the fact that people say, man, you're always hard to get in touch with. I never have a phone near me. I don't want phone near my testicles. I'm still making babies. So I don't want my sperm cells to be distorted. So I keep the phone out of my pocket. All of these things that seem, I'll drink water when I don't feel like drinking water. you know but these are all things so that I'm healthy to cover, my mind is sharp, all these different things. And it doesn't have to be a woman even in my orbit at that time for me to always be constantly. I still got to be the sun whether there's planets or not. So having that full understanding of being that self-sufficient entity, because your covering can't be based on codependency. That can't be a part of the relationship. It's got to be, that dependency's got to run one direction. Because even Hawa was made for Adoma to help, but he was going to do it anyway. He was already doing it. We don't know how long he was doing it before she was made. So that's the thing. It's like you have to be able to be self-sufficient so she can trust in what you're saying and trust in what you're doing. You got to have a historical track record. So I would say these are things that I learned, some things I just knew. That's the thing, when you are a king and you have a harem, there's some things you just born knowing. There's things you learn, but it's like some things is like, man, I always been like, I don't know why I've been like this. I always had this kind of standard, and I don't know why. And sometimes you wish you didn't have it, because you're looking at other people around you like, man, everybody else is having fun because they're free. And I have this like code internally that doesn't mean anything to anyone but me. and it's keeping me from having all this fun, you know. And sometimes that's a sign like, yeah, you were marked. You marked. You know, you've been marked for something different than what everybody else is doing. But respecting that mark is a part of being a good covering. Sexual discipline is important, you know, because when you have women under you, man, sex always takes the edge off. No matter what's going on, man, just get naked, take all that off, head wrap and all, you know. So it's like, but when you don't have that, you know, when that's always your way of coping or reconnecting, you know, yeah, the communication will suffer. So you have to have the discipline where you could look at each other and say, look, we're not gonna yeah, remove your hair call. Funny. You gotta have the discipline where you could say, yo, we're not gonna rock out for a month or two. We're gonna take the fall and just fast from that. And we're gonna find other ways to express our intimacy between you and I, you know, and kind of reset a little bit, cool that thing off. You know, so that level of discipline is also very important. But yeah, man, like I said earlier in the chat, man, you can't be a hypocrite. I remember many years ago, this sister I was with back in like the mid 90s, early to mid 90s. I was always talking about, man, as soon as I get out, you know, like different situations I was in. I don't want to get into it, but I was like, man, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm moving to Africa. Moving to Africa. Just gonna pick up, move to Africa. I'm sick of this place. And I had a sister at the time was like, all right, let's do it. And when she said, let's do it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I started getting cold feet. I was like, well, you know, I got some money on the table here. Like this still some more money I can make and this, that. And I gotta set, you gotta set things up right. And I gotta sell my car, you know, and the exhaust is leaking. So I mean, I gotta fix that first. I can't just leave, you know. You start coming up with all these different things. And I remember one time it echoes, it was so long ago. But she was just like, man, you're not serious. And this was a woman I was with. We were in this like a real relationship. She said that, and it was like, she's not joke. This wasn't a joke. Like she's looking at me like, oh, you clown, you know. And no one had ever said anything like that to me. But I had to admit, yeah, I'm not as serious as I'm thinking I am, you know. And being able to kind of be a man of your word. You know, there was some things that happened after that. I was like, man, if I was in Africa, if I would have left, this would have never happened. You know, like I should have left. Oh God, you know. So yeah, man. Don't shout any orders, man. If you know that sister could turn around and look at you and be like, but you didn't even do this, or you didn't even do that. And you know she's being decent. She's not saying it not because she doesn't see it, because they see everything. Because when you're the man, you're doing most of the talking. She's doing most of the listening. You know, so she hears things coming out of your mouth. You don't even realize she's listening. You know, you think she's just like some fruit fly. She got the brain of a fruit fly and she's just following all your orders, you know. But she's the easier, man. She got a brain like yours. She's just like, all right, I'll play. You know, just like when a woman is intimate with you, she calls you baby. She know you ain't no baby. Bring your big nappy beard and rubbing it all over. That ain't no baby wouldn't do that. You know, but we playing. You know, just like I've called women, yeah, baby, you ain't my daughter. I know that. You know what I mean? We playing. It's all just a game. And that's the beauty. We having fun playing this game. You know, women call me daddy. Hey, daddy, da da da. Oh, I ain't your daddy. You know, I ain't your daddy. You know what I mean? I'm your daddy. But I ain't your father. But I'm your daddy. You know, we playing, and playing can be fun, but at the same time, any of us can shut the game down, and sometimes it does get shut down when the breakups come. Women are usually the first ones to shut it down. Okay, my car is coming, so I'm gonna just bring my stuff. Oh, you want to call me by my first name when you're at the door? Yeah, because you know you're gonna slam the door before I get to kick you in your ass, you know. But yeah, I see what you're doing. Okay, yeah, real cute. You've been waiting. You've been waiting all this time to call me by my first name, huh? You know, so you know things like that. But we playing. You know, so I think that's always important to remember, because sometimes, when you're covering someone, you can lose focus on that. You know, we're playing, but there's also a respectful agreement here. And that means that we both have to hold up our end of the contract. And when you don't hold up your end, don't rely on the culture to cover you. You know, what the culture says, you can't be over there criticizing me and telling me what to do, or telling people that I'm not doing the right thing. No, not necessarily. A woman can bring you in front of the elders. We have plenty instances of that in the book. Now, how would you rather handle it? You know, so I think there's a level of security and humility that we all have to be able to, if she says, you know, this is not looking like what you said it was going to look like, or what you said it was, this ain't looking right. For you to be able to say, maybe I'm sorry. You know, it didn't, yeah, it's not looking like it for me either. It didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. You know, as opposed to just like, well, yo, that's not for you to worry. You worry about what you're supposed to do. I worry about what I'm doing. You know, that doesn't work. Yeah.
You know, Chief, it's funny, you know, and I wanted to add on to what you're sharing, but also with when Emma Sequoia was asking in the chat, and that is what I've learned too, is you when you got to have humor, you have to have a sense of humor in it, but also have fun. And it's funny because I'm sitting here and I think, like, before I came in, I knew, I didn't realize it, and I remember sharing this with you because it was asked. Like when I was working at my former job, I had a woman, and you know, my coworker, but she was my eyes and ears. I needed her, meaning that she made my life a lot easier. That was the first time, and it wasn't until you brought it up that when I remember we were in a study session. This is some years ago now, and it's interesting because when she wasn't here, we blend words. She, you know, all it was like, okay, this is what I need you to do, and she did it. She did it perfect. She was probably one of the ones that did it better than anyone else. But the reason it was done is that, one, I learned I just wanted to get it done a certain way, or no, I just want to get it done. They have their little way. Okay, fine. It ain't no violation or anything, fine. But that was just it. She was able to get it done. And that went on for a couple of years. And of course, when she wasn't there, I'm like, dang, you know, man. But going back to this being a covering, and it wasn't coming in, I knew, and I think of the ones I cover. One of the Emma Queer. She got that, you know, from Toy Stories. It's that bear. Not the, I know he was bad, but he had that smile on him. It's funny thing about Aquia. Yeah, I'm putting you out there, but it's about her smile. She's got that warm smile that, because these are little things now that I notice, that I pay attention. But the key thing about all of this, and Chief, and it's interesting, I've learned, and I'm learning even more. But you said something, and that's another thing about being vulnerable is, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. That's another thing that I learned. You gotta, if you're wrong as a man and you're covering these beautiful women that you've been entrusted to by our Chief Jegna. And so if you're wrong, admit that. That is I have made mistakes. That's what I mean. I even learned from my own mistakes, but even more so when I was wrong. Even when I was working in the community, when you're the leader, I have to admit when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that's why I gained the respect of the people I work. One, there was no darkness or no for me, I lived the life of integrity. For 20 something years, no one in my job can ever go back and say, oh yeah, we got this dirt. No, you don't have no dirt on me. And I didn't date a lot of women before I knew. I was always in my head, I never wanted them to say left, and it's like, you know what, they regret it. Oh, no, they regret it. I didn't want to say that for me. I'm like, damn, I let that one go. Wow. But see, we men don't think that way. Especially when you're covering. Are you doing the best? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Are you honoring this moment? Like you were saying, you were teaching, like I learned about contracts. Are you honoring that contract? Are you honoring this space that these women are under you? That's another thing about honoring the space, honoring it and building on that. And so that's the thing that I appreciate with you, Chief, because this has helped me become a better man. Matter of fact, covering and answering in question has helped me to become a better man because of the vulnerability, and also because I already know that if I'm not living up to my fullest potential as a divine being, then I'm letting them down. I'm letting
you're
my
going to let
community
them down anyway, because the covering initiative is practice.
Right.
It's practice for the man to learn how to cover, and it's practice for the woman to learn how to cover, how to be covered. So ultimately, there's going to be some letdowns nonetheless, or maybe there should be metered expectations, because like, yeah, if I entrusted the women to you, you didn't earn them. It wasn't like you displayed something that was so amazing and say, I gotta go be under Abba Haru, or that they displayed something so amazing that you say, I gotta have them under me. So it's like, okay, everybody as brother and sister, we playing. It's back to playing again. Let's practice. I'm gonna give you some of my authority, as a woman, and as the man, you say, okay, I'm gonna look over you and protect you as best I can, but I still don't even know what the hell I'm doing, because I'm here trying to figure it out. And this is Chief's way of, trial by fire. You're gonna learn this way. And that's an important thing to keep in mind, because sometimes you might feel like, man, I messed up. I let him down. And if everybody remembers, it's practice. It's practice. You're gonna make mistakes. You don't know what you're doing. It's practice. Anybody ever heard of a covering initiative outside of I know I've never heard of it. Right. So, you're doing something you never even seen done. And I don't bring my women around.
Covering, period.
Right. The bedding for my bed.
I never had a covering, period. Yeah, exactly. Make my bed.
Right. So it's like, yeah, you have to expect that there's going to be mistakes made, man. Things are still being realized. Here, I'll give you an example right here. You remember when Mary Magdalene washed Yahweh Shai's hair with the perfume? I mean, washed his feet with her hair with the perfume. Well, didn't she have to uncover her head to do that? What did that mean? You see, there's so many nuances.
Wow, wow.
Right. Exactly. This my man. He just, because shouldn't he been like hair? Because like porno back then was different. Like,
Look at her ankles.
Yeah, look at them ankles. Look when she's down there by the river washing the clothes. I saw her collarbone. Like that would have been like hardcore back then. You know what I mean? You washing it with perfume, and it was expensive perfume at that. So that gives you a nuance to understand something about the difference between hair and the difference between head. The head. Let me put it that way. That sounded kind of crazy, but yeah. See, I can't talk to y'all.
You could have let it ride. You missed it.
Yeah, but then somebody's listening. Somebody would have said something like, "Yeah, Chief didn't say what he just said. He's horrible." But yeah, like the woman's head should be covered. Should a head be covered, or should a hair be covered, or should both be covered? The woman's hair is her glory, but the head should be covered. So is it okay just to cover the head but leave the hair out? Right? So many nuances, and some of these nuances, when you're learning to cover somebody, you understand that too. It's related to that. So are these women my glory, Are they a glory to Yah? Are they their own glory? How does this work? And they ain't really my women. I don't have contracts with them. We haven't consummated. They haven't, there's been no ceremony. I didn't even ask for them. Chief was like, here, you going to cover this one, you going to cover that one. So, damn, I didn't get to pick the ones I want. Because you talking about you got what's the dude's name? Lotso? Something like that? From Toy Story? The bear? What's his name? Lotso? He was the villain, wasn't he? At the end of the day.
Even though he was a villain, it's just her smile is, that's why I made it very clear. No, I'm not equating you to him. It's just she has that smile. That's all.
Okay.
But it has nothing to do. No. But that's not the only thing. She just got that. She just got that. I want to say fluffy. Now I want to say the word fluffy smile. It's just
God. Good thing she ain't on this live.
It's cute. That's my little cute fluffy. It's okay.
Okay, we'll put some courtship papers in on her.
Oh God.
Well, yeah, man. So like I was saying, yeah, she could be all yours. She'd really be yours.
But you know what, Chief?
I knew it.
I want to make it clear though. When I mentioned about, I said, I know you were sharing about, I said the word, wow, my mind just skipped me, about letting down. What I meant by that was not doing my due diligence, my duty. That's what I was referring to about myself. Yeah, like you said, yeah, it's gonna be mistakes. That I'm not worried about. It's just the part of me letting down to me is letting my community down, letting my chief Jagnan down, letting the women that was entrusted to me down. Because why?
Yeah.
Am I failing to do my duty? That's what I wanted.
Have you studied that concept of Ezer Kenegdo?
I'm gonna be studying it after you talk. Yeah, after this.
Yeah, that means you let them down already, because I already taught on that. So that you carry Eden.
I did it already. See,
you done already let them down.
Still got to study though.
Yeah, so you done already screwed up.
Yeah.
See, so that's what it is. Everybody's still practicing.
Okay, got you.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, I think I remember you. It might have been at the betrothal too, where you said another translation for that word. Ezer was like, or the phrase Ezer Kenegdo was savior.
Savior or rescuer.
Savior or rescuer.
But it's not really used that often. But even as a savior or rescuer, it still doesn't imply superiority. So it's not in the same way that you would call a Messiah a savior or a rescuer.
I'm thinking in the terms of like, even like if you're in a tough spot and someone helps you out, it's like, wow, you're a lifesaver.
Yeah, exactly. It could be that I was trying to get something done, like, and you came and helped me to get it done. Yeah, it could be seen as that.
Most High thought he was gonna chew me out again. I missed the report. Keep beating on the ostriches.
I'm gonna get some more feathers plucked out of my wings.
Right. We got 6 left.
Right. Exactly. But it would be wise, even if you're someone who's covering, you should be reading 1 Corinthians 11 chapter. That's where Paul's talking about a woman wearing her hair covering. You have to determine, like, is that a sign of submission or a sign that her husband has authority over her? Does it even matter at this point? Is it, is that what's even being spoken about? See, all of these different things are a part of your practice as a covering. All of these things are part of your practice. Like, anytime you come across the idea of a covering, and then, because that will also help you to kind of have those telltale signs to determine, like, man, am I on it? Like, I'm supposed to be on it? Understanding things about modesty, stuff like that. Those are important things.
Yeah, they don't come up in such a real way until you're covering someone.
Right.
You're really responsible for it. Like, I used to just hear about it, but now here it is. I have to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We can't.
I was flowing too. I was flowing. I was in the heat. I was on mute. But just being responsible for someone to the point where it doesn't come up with you, like modesty or covering or making sure that someone is even safe, like not being out alone, or concepts like that, where you didn't think you had to explain it. Sometimes because you think it's common sense, and sometimes because you don't think about it. Now you're in a position where you have to think about it, and not only do you have to think about it, but your philosophy has to be tight enough to where you can tell someone this is what you've been taught, this is why it's wrong, this is what we're doing from now on, and there not be any consistent pushback. Like you tell them this on Monday, and then they begrudgingly say, "All right," and then Thursday is like, "But I don't understand." Like,
Right.
like you can't keep having that conversation over and over. So like even with what Abu Harut I brought up earlier when you were talking about all those measurements, like you got to know it 360 degrees. You got to know every single angle of your philosophy to the point where you don't even have to talk that much. Like it's obvious why we don't do this. It's obvious that we move this way. It's obvious why.
When she's truly yours, when she is truly yours, there's definitely, maybe in the covering initiative, there's a little bit more conversation because she's not yours. But if a woman is truly my rib, the first thing to understand that if you my rib, you're my baby. Hawa was Adoma's first child. That was Adoma's child. You came from me. You came from my center. You are my child. You're my baby. So my understanding of you and responsibility over you, there's things sometimes my youth tell me, I'll say something. I may not have spoken to him for months, and something's going on. And I'll say, well, I know you were probably looking at it this way. How'd you know that? How'd you know that's how? Fool, I know you. In and out. I made you. You see? I'm your maker. So that's the thing. It's like, so when you have a woman, she's your rib, she's your baby, we're not talking. There's no coming back, but I don't, because it's just like my youth, man. I just give them a look. They know. There ain't no talking. I will give you, once you get that look, all I'm doing right there is I'm figuring out where my target is. That's it. What's my target? You know what I mean? So that's the thing. It's the same thing. Like she has to understand, like, no, this is not there's no area and room here for debate because I am this man's child. So he loves me in that same sort of way. Yahweh Shai can't say that he's married to the church and at the same time say I and the Father are one. Well, if I am and the Father are one, then that means I'm also the father of the church. Because we're one. I'm the father of that which I am married to. And then we're told to have the same relationship with our consort. I got to be her father and her man. So even like the scenario you brought up when you say, hey, what's going on? The person's like, nothing. All right, cool. I don't have time to sit here and play with you. Then you're just going to have to be messed up over there. You see, that's a part of growing up too. When you have children's sons, especially when they get a certain age, they come in the house. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. How was school? Fine. All right, cool. And then they try to sit around. No, don't sit around me. I was famous for that. Go to your room. Don't get away from me from that. Well, I ain't even saying that. Yeah, your vibe, that little pouty thing. Just get away from me. I say just like
the
that.
Atmosphere start getting hot.
Yeah, exactly. You sucking the life out the room. No, we're not doing it because where I'm at is fun, is joy. You ain't messing that up for me. Beat it. And then you'll get the put. All right, Baba, can I just talk to you about something? Yeah, okay, there we go. That's what I thought. You know what I'm saying? I'm not playing that game with you. See, that's a Jezebel control game. You sucking me in and pulling me into your vortex. No. Either you come to my throne like you're supposed to come, or you don't at all, or you get kicked out of the court. That's it. It's only two choices you got. But yeah, I mean, I just think as far as covering, man, there's so much that you have to study and learn. If you're not studying, you don't have much to say. You don't have much to say. When a sister says, well, why do I have to listen to you? And you say, well, because you need to be covered, or if you're not covered, things are going to go. What are you talking about? That's not true. Now, you ain't got to listen to me. Things might go better. They might go smoother. I don't know. You have to make that choice if that's what. But if you're going to make that choice, if this is what we're doing, then this is what it is. That's why I told you, when you read the scriptures have no words for the Gentiles. The scriptures have no advice. Like, yeah, even though you might reject me as your Elohim, and you may not accept my son, let me tell you how to get your money, my dude. There's none of that. It's, repent and follow this way. Now, once you follow this way, this is what you do. But if you don't do that, I got nothing to say to you. You see, I got nothing to say to you. I don't got a bunch of advice for you. My biggest advice for you, repent, change on the way you think, and come on and get in. Graft yourself into this nation. If you don't want to do any of that, then I got nothing for you. Just go on, keep doing what you're doing. Or you'll get the infamous chief. I hear you. Or K. I just typed the letter K.
That's like the counterpunch to Toda.
Right, exactly.
Give thanks.
Give thanks. Right. Okay, I hear you.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all I would say to that, man. I'm not going to tie up your space, man. Give thanks.
Two more things to share, and then be out here, One of them was from a segment, because we mentioned the word master, and I was like, did Chief do a segment on that? I'm talking about in podcast episode 94. I said, Chief did a segment on master. So this was from a segment, the master oneness at one. And I don't know where the passage is from, but I just know that this passage stuck out to me. And it says, if you move among people, gain respect and trust through speaking openly and truthfully. Those who are trusted and speak truthfully will become leaders and masters of themselves. But those whose heart obeys base desires cause contempt rather than love. Their heart diminishes and their body dwindles. Those of great heart are the chosen of God, but those who obey base desires will become the possession of the enemy. All right, and I thought that was real key, especially reflecting on the men, right? Because as far as from what I understand, everything trickles down from the men. It comes through the Most High and trickles down to the men. And Satan will always try to disrupt what the Most High creates. You broke this down numerous times. So here we have someone who all of this knowledge and wisdom and understanding trickles down from. If I could just take him out, all of that negativity and all of that, all the negative effects is going to trickle down to the family too. So if he's not right, women won't be right, children won't be right, household won't be right. And even if they are right, if he refuses to repent, then he's going to mess them up eventually. So you can see why the onus is always on the men. And part of that onus is choosing wisely. If you are smart, if you are wise, if you are doing what you're supposed to do, don't simp for someone who will just cause calamity and destruction. Just leave them alone. They don't have to listen to you, and you don't have to help them. Right? And the last thing is, I think it's the last paragraph in family. Right? Ultimately, everyone in Anu should belong to a homestead. No individual should be left comfortless or without direction and guidance. As the head Jegna of Anu provides leadership and guidance to the men of Anu, the men of Anu should serve in the same function for the women and children of Anu. We are a movement of families. We always need doers of family and not chatterers of family. Faith without works is dead. The work is to recreate the structure of Yah on earth, as above, so below. All right. So, Abu, you wanted to add anything before we close out?
No, that sums up. I don't. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. We always appreciate you coming through, Chief Yah, and just bringing order. Like it's a good it's a great example of Yah speaking and order coming forth from Yah's speech and what we're supposed to do, as men. So always appreciate that. I'm fighting urge to say Todah or give thanks, but I really do mean it. We appreciate it. Thank you for everyone for coming through as well and engaging in the chat. And Shabbat Shalom. I think we've announced the retreat enough. Either you're coming or you ain't coming at this point.
Right.
Y'all know what the deal is. All the rules, like you say, just come, damn it. But with that, this has been our fellowship. Peace, everyone. Be well.
Peace. Shabbat Shalom.